Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L here to talk about My Hero Academia chapter uh 378. I had the number. Hey guys, welcome. I'm recording this on a Monday night. I hope it gets out before Tuesday. Would be nice if it does. Very quick announcement. I'm gonna be going away, so I won't be able to put up videos as quickly as I would like. I'm too close to the frame there. Anyway, I wouldn't be able to put out videos as quickly as I would like, but I will still try to put out the My Hero Academia videos. Don't know if I'll do anything else. Anyway, you might be wondering, why do we only have a white screen? Where's the picture? Well, Shueisha decided to copy strike me. So just gonna have this white screen here while we do the general talk. And then we'll go into the chapter the chapter page by page walkthrough, because Shueisha. But I got my copy strike counter going through, so hopefully that'll work out. Anyway, 378. What can I really say about the chapter? Aw, man, buds, worst chapter ever. This is gonna take too long. Yeah. Okay. Alright, yeah, worst chapter ever of Hero Academia, man. It's actually really funny. I was going to make the video title, "This might be the worst chapter of Hero Academia in existence," but, I used my head, and I realized that people would not understand what I was saying, and they would flame me for being correct. So, didn't do that. Switched to another title. I think you guys will enjoy it, but I hope you were excited to, dive into why this is the case. But actually, to give you the very quick rundown on it, it is actually probably the worst chapter of Hero Academia ever in terms of the technicalities in it. Just because too many things were happening all at once, and it makes certain characters look really, really bad, and it throws off a lot of situations. There's a lot of physical problems here. For those that don't know, I had the belief that Gentle would not be using the trampoline to catch Yue, because when something elastic is deformed, it usually snaps back with a lot of force. So I thought, well, no one will want to put Yue on a trampoline. Is pretty much what I thought, but here we are. I thought that would be the biggest problem we would run into, but there's actually a lot more. And one of them is actually very unique in that you wouldn't know it's actually a problem unless you were specifically in the field. And so we'll get into that one, and you can probably figure out which one I'm talking about, because it's something that one person says that makes it like, bro, I'm not sure this is pretty special if this is the case. But take stuff away from this, take away the technical aspects of the chapter. I think it's actually a very good chapter. I'm happy that Gentle came back. I never expected that Gentle would be the one that protected that prison. I was really thinking it was going to be Rappa. So that was a really nice surprise. So, plus for Gentle, like White Despair said, we were eating very good with this chapter. This was a very good chapter. We found out that Labrava's the one that messed with Skeptic. That was the bet for a lot of people, myself included, that Labrava was the one who caused his big failure, and his one failure was his company getting hacked. Overall, very happy with that. Happy to see Gentle here. We got Nagant at the end of the chapter. Now, one thing with Nagant is that I thought it was pretty clear Nagant was coming back, but I didn't think Nagant was going to come back here. The way I envisioned this was pretty much, let's say, plan A, right? We have plan A. Then we go into failure, which happened, right? Then we go into, plan B. And this is a very rough thing, because we knew plan B was going to happen, because, why bring up plan B if, it's not going to happen, right? So we at plan B there, right? Now, after plan B, I expected All Might death. And, I'm kind of hoping it doesn't happen, but let's just say All Might death. And after that, I was expecting Brief Repose. So this is kind of like a... the final darkness before the dawn. This is the moment where everyone's just kind of beaten up, resting, and they just kind of pick themselves up from one last thing. And then we go into Final Stand. Now, in Final Stand, this is where just everyone is throwing shit at the wall and they're just going at it. I really thought we were going to get Nagant here. She would just show up at the last minute. Other people that I thought would appear at Final Stand are pretty much the international heroes. But Nagant ends up showing up roughly around here. So it's kind of interesting where exactly she popped in. Just because it throws things off. And the problem here is that we still need to deal with Zero. So where exactly do you put in Zero? Because, and the Hianto Makia battlefield. The thing is, if you look at the structure of the Hero Academia chapters, and if you're being honest with yourself, you'll acknowledge this. What we get is pretty much villains have like a few moments, and the villains pretty much get to run wild for like maybe 70% of a chapter, and then we have a heroic comeback coming out of nowhere. In this case, Gentle was the heroic comeback, and the heroic comeback lasts for a full chapter. But when we look at Gigantomachia's situation, what it means is pretty much we have to go to Gigantomachia. There has to be 70% of a villain run through, and then we go into like heroic comeback, and we have to do that for Kirishima and Zero, possibly. Like roughly, it's a rough estimate kind of thing. Where would we put those situations? You know, like where are we gonna like shove those things in? What's the purpose of Zero's battlefield? What is Gigantomachia's purpose? I mean, like it makes sense for them to be in Final Stand, but like how do we get there, right? Like, because what those two battlefields pretty much represent, they represent the time that we have to spend away from the major battlefields. That being the ones that are all for one involved. So, ultimately, very surprising. I think definitely Horikoshi gets the props for being surprising. Awesome. I'm into it. But yeah, man, that's pretty much where my thoughts are. Okay, do you think Shueisha like has left the video? Maybe. There's nothing they can copyright strike for what? It's the first 7 minutes in my recording, so there's nothing they can copyright strike here. Let's get to the stuff that is actually fair use. I'm allowed to do this. All right, cool. Here we go. Can you believe Shueisha would copyright strike me for just just showing the dialogue? Can you believe that? Man, every year, like they just had to start my new year like this. Anyway, so the first page of this wonderful chapter is we're finding out the evacuation system is down. There's a very critical detail. I better like actually go up to this because White Despair, a commenter, pointed out. Oh, before I forget, I have to thank one other. Like one commenter deserves some appreciation. Ty really believed in Gentle being the one to air trampoline that thing, and I like talked him down from it, but he stayed on it. He was ultimately like good on him. Anyway, the big detail here is there's a request from Gunga. They need backup. This just kind of makes you wonder, like, what exactly do they have for backup? Who is available? You see Shindo later on in the chapter with, like, Miss Joke, so it makes you feel like maybe there's someone, maybe? But this is actually a really interesting detail. I do wonder who they're going to get. God, I hope they send Rappa, because that would just be hilarious. Okay, but we got to go back to, like, Labrava's thing here. So, Labrava goes in and tells us how she, like, wormed into Feelgood's servers, blah, 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 replaced the ads with, like, Optic Kitty. We have, like, Skeptic's little freak out there. Ultimately, Skeptic is made to look like an idiot, and he really is. Let's talk about the big critical thing here. Oh, buddy. Oh, buddy. That's, like, oh, no. Okay, so if you are not a programmer, do you understand what this means? The code's functions are wildly long, and the scope of the variable is nuts. Okay. This is hilariously bad. In every respect. Using it in this context, I would say it's a little bit sketchy on Horikoshi. And what she is saying here is actually very, very bad. For those that don't know, I'm actually a programmer. That was me in a past life before I failed and became a YouTuber. Now, that was me. I haven't done it in a while, but I know the basics. And this is going to be very important to understand. It is not Horikoshi's fault that he made Skeptic stupider than he intended to. Horikoshi is not a programmer. I don't expect him to know the jargon. I don't expect him to know the deep problems in programming that you run into. And I have a very good idea how he came up with this particular line of dialogue. So, very quickly, I'm not expecting Horikoshi to have any degree of mastery of the language when it comes to programming. But I want to show you why this is a problem. And I want to show you how exactly this problem occurs, because this is a problem that you're going to run into if you are a writer and you need to very quickly source something and you are using very quick internet sources or like a very quick understanding from your buddy, and you don't go into the nitty-gritty details, because almost everything in fiction has nitty-gritty details behind the background. Again, not Horikoshi's fault. He did something very good. He is technically correct on... he is correct that this is bad. This is way worse than that you could see implied in the chapter. Okay, so here is what's going on. When you have the thing saying the code's functionality are wild, are wildly long. Okay, so first, the code's functions. Sorry. A function... Okay, let me take it back. The code's functions are wildly long. The common advice for your functions is to make them as short as possible, but no shorter. In other words, when you're making a program, you want not like 2,000 lines back to back of like your program. You want a lot of function calls. You want your functions to have a very you want your functions to have good names. You want your functions to have a very unique purpose. Like you have a function specifically that, let's say, checks a data block for a specific detail, pulls it out, and send it to another function. That's what you want your functions to do. It just helps readability, and it helps just keep things under control, and it helps your planning because you don't have to like make spaghetti code. So that's the first one. The functions are wildly long. That is terrible. That's a pretty bad thing that you did there. And now you have the scope of the variables is nuts. Now, the issue here is that there is one master variable, or there's like one specific type of variable class that is above all the others. And I'm going to explain to you, you're going to get a programming lesson. I don't care, because you need to understand why, like, where the problems here arise. Let's use the white space over here. So there's one particular kind of variable. It's called a global variable. Okay, so this is the largest scope that you can ever have in a program. So the issue with Labrava's dialogue there of the scope of the variables is nuts. A global variable is essentially a variable that any part of the program can access. The problem with global variables, and the reason that you don't want to have too many global variables, is because every part of the program can access it, so you never really know when something might be accessing it when a function needs it to not be accessed. You don't know how many of your variables might be touching it. The other problem with global variables is that they take up memory space and they stay there till the termination of the program. That's essentially the quick thing. So the reason you don't want to use too many global variables, memory costs, memory, and too many opportunities for failure. Because if you have a program that is specifically dependent on many global variables, all it really takes, if you go in and you change that global variable, you might break 90% of the code if you change it when it shouldn't be changed. That's why you don't want to have too many global variables. So when like Labrava talks about the scope of the variables is nuts, that line doesn't actually tell you much, because there is a limit to how much scope you can have, and it's called the global variable. That's the highest you can go here in general. There might be like specific small use cases, but a global variable, there's a reason it's called global. Everything can access it. There's other little things you can do, but we're not going to go in that deep. All right. Now the problem ultimately with what Labrava ended up saying to Skeptic is that these things, these two elements, keep your don't use too many global variables and keep your functions short. They are what you are told in your introductory to programming classes. So Skeptic has the habits of someone who hasn't gone into his introductory programming classes. This is a real special person right here. Like, to get as far as he did with these particular noob level patterns, bro, he's worse than the common high school student. Now, again, the issue here is that if you were to Google, like, what are like regular code practices, you would find, oh, keep your function short, you know, limit the scope of your variables. It just makes tighter code. It makes it cleaner, helps readability, put comments in your code. The thing here with that line is like, it's so basic that you know how Horikoshi found out about it. It's just a simple Google search, but like what he ultimately finds out is like the most basic thing that everyone's taught in their coding class. Now, mind you, some people ignore the coding classes, but that's why they're not a good programmer. If you wanted to go a step higher, what you would have said for this line to make it more esoteric and to like make it look like there's actually bigger problems here, you would have specifically, instead of going for the most basic of the basic of the basics, you would have said your code isn't commented very well, and also your functions aren't named well. And the reason that that matters is because coding is ultimately still very human-based. Even though ChatGPT exists, still very human-based, especially when you're working in systems where you have other employees. You want your employees to know what exactly every function yet you're doing. Mind you, you could say that, well, if Skeptic is not using efficient functions, then maybe he doesn't need to comment things. But actually, no, like the longer your function becomes, the more you have to document what exactly your function is doing. Otherwise, it's going to cause like gigantic problems. So Skeptic ultimately, like, he looks pretty dumb here, but you don't understand. His intellect here is below the discipline that a high school student in a programming class would develop. That is what's really funny here. So very stupid. Again, slap on Horiko. She's back here. This is just what happens when you're not in the field. The same thing happened with Momo. Like, Momo, when she made that electronic, that's it. He busted the game with Momo because Momo beats fabrication rates of the real world. Momo is doing things that just fundamentally make her a supercomputer because of the way things go. That thing had a level of firmware in it because she had an LCD display, and it had to, like, in order to be a GPS tracking system, there had to be some degree of communication with a satellite. So she hacked some protocols. Yeah, there might be like some other way of like doing some GPS tracker, but the moment you said GPS, that's global positioning system, you need satellites. Yeah, no, Momo really busted the game on that one, but that's just what happens when you don't know the deep lore of whatever, you know, field. Anyway, no, but the big thing is just take away that Skeptic is super idiotic. One thing to know about variables, for those that don't know, like, the variables are where data is stored. With your functions, these two things are actually interconnected. When you have a function, you can establish a variable, so I can call it like function variable A. Not a good name, but function variable A, right? Like, I declare that variable, and it's only ever used when it's in the function. So once the function, once you go into it and you get what you need from the function, the space is deallocated if you did it correctly, and you don't need the variable. And you can tell, like, by declaring a variable only when you need it and getting rid of it when you don't need it. Super, like, it's just nicer. That's why the scope is just dumb. Like, honestly, no wonder he got hacked, because if you just have all your global variables out there with like wide scopes, once you can access one of those wide scope variables, you can mess everything that comes after it. No wonder like LeBron was screwing him up. Anyway, I know that was very long, but thanks for sticking with me. I just wanted to like explain to you why Skeptic's the biggest idiot on the planet. Like, biggest idiot with a tech firm. I feel really bad for his employees. Like, this is like pretty much programming horror stories. Okay, so we've established that Skeptic is like a really, 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 really bad programmer. But, you know, the goodness continues, and this one is just more of a logical problem. I'm not really sure. It kind of depends. Like, people that know more about server-based stuff could probably like help out here. But on page 2, we find out that there's the pump dance. I don't know what that was. I googled it. The pump, they did a opening for Kamen Rider 01, so I recognized them, but I couldn't find this dance. Whatever. Don't know what the dance is, but it's a nice visual. The big thing here is that Skeptic says that LeBron is taking over every system, and then he says he won't evacuate UA. Oh, sorry, he won't relinquish UA or the evacuation system. And then he turns a couple of his servers or computers into people, and he starts running with them. Now, here is the thing. I don't understand what he did to UA, such that he can disconnect from the Wi-Fi in order to prevent LeBrava from hacking the system. If he's no longer in control, who is in control of UA right now? Like, what is controlling UA's systems right now if the person in control isn't controlling it? The system's been disconnected. There should be no signals coming into UA from Skeptic because the origin of the signals has been disconnected because he's running away with it physically. The only way this works is if Skeptic put in a virus in UA, but the thing is, if he put a virus into UA, LeBrava can just get rid of that, so he'll lose the Like, what I'm saying is, like, there's no way where he can remove the servers and still have control of the system. Unless you're saying, like, he put a super virus in UA so it can continue doing things while he's disconnected from the system. Or he's got like a program working from another server, but like the problem is, like, if a server is still connected, like, you need for this to work, you need the control system to be still connected to UA, unless it's on UA systems themselves. Like, to make this work, you have to like come up with some kind of thing here. And at some point you have to say there's either another system connected still, or there's a virus in UA. The other issue here is, now the other thing you could say is like maybe, like the only time disconnecting your systems works, and if you watch a lot of scammer, like catching scammer videos, the only time disconnecting your systems works is really that you prevent someone from getting into it and getting your data. That's all that really matters. But what data does he have that is vital to keeping UA under his control? Like data we usually talk about, like, you know, when someone's getting to your system, you disconnect it because you don't want them to get your pictures, your really embarrassing like teenage phase, that kind of stuff. You don't want that. That's what disconnecting the computer does. It doesn't do anything else. It just stops someone from getting in, and then protects your data. Unless, again, you have to say that UA is being controlled still with him disconnecting the main systems here. You have to say that something is operating from another server or from another computer in general, and you have to say that the passcode is like so ridiculously long, or like the encryption is so ridiculously tough that it would be better to look for the keys in Skeptic's computer to be able to unlock the encryption instead of doing like a brute force hacking of the encryption system that's installed in UA, for example. Like what I'm fundamentally saying is that there's only a really small handful of scenarios where disconnecting the computers and running with them makes sense. And like the best scenario is specifically where Skeptic has an encryption key on his computer and Labrava wants to get that encryption key in order to unlock whatever program is currently taking control of UA from another unspecified computer, which may or may not be within UA. The biggest thing to take away is just there still needs to be a connection for Skeptic to still have control, or for like UA to still be messed up. Again, with the way that this is going, and with no one talking about spyware or viruses, Skeptic disconnecting pretty much relinquished control of the systems. We move on. Skeptic says, you pinpointed my location, haven't you? What if I flee? You still lose. The flames of revolution won't be doused. Yeah. He didn't really think this one through. Page 3. We can finally move away from technical stuff and we can talk more about just stupidity on the character's part. Okay, so first off, one of the big things is UA's altitude is continuing to drop. It's hurling toward the ground. It won't stop. Okay, there is something that's going on here that I need to talk to everyone about. We'll do that in a quick bit. But before that, we have a line just about the way the villains are treated. Overall, I want to say that the official translation made these lines about the villains a lot better, because the fan translations and the summaries were terrible. But there is still like just like winner, like idiot award of the year here. You have one of these guys getting upset. You have him telling Labrava to hurry up and do something. We have Labrava saying that there's not enough time for her to do what she needs to do, and I will talk about that in a very quick second. And then he says, we should have known it was a bad call to leave our final line of defense to a convicted villain in custody. So that, I didn't realize that they were gonna, one of the biggest surprises that Gentle was in a prison with other villains. And when I'm looking at Labrava, I'm also very surprised that she was also in custody, a convicted villain in custody. That means like Gentle's appeals to the officers didn't really work, and she was given the villain label. Just rough. But yeah, no, this guy right here, I find it extremely funny that you're in a situation where your last line of defense was Labrava not by choice. It's because you have no one else with her skills. So it's just a very stupid line that just is like, it lacks so much self-awareness of, bro, if it wasn't, if you didn't have Labrava, you would have lost immediately, bro. And so what it really does is that it sets up Sukachi's lines about people, like villains being people too, and it's just so idiotic. It's just the thing is, like, we have seen some really stupid things from the police before, so it's so idiotic that it's in character. So props to Horikoshi for that. Very good. You know, again, there's a line between character flaw and just bad writing. This is still on character flaw. This is good writing, but it's idiotic, and it's so good because of how idiotic it is. And then we go into Sukachi's lines are really what sell it. A crime is a crime, and we can't erase the past, but it's not always a lost cause. You know what's really interesting? In countries where rehabilitation is the way to go here, you say this, like, this line is more biased towards once you're a villain, you're a bad person, that's it, your life's over forever. Him talking about like it's not always a lost cause is like he's ignoring the fact that rehabilitation is something people want to do. So when you look at what happened to Gentle, it's like You threw him in a jail with other people worse than him. There's no rehabilitation happening here. Even with the way that they treat these people, like, it's very consistent. And mind you, like, also, Japan is the country of, 96% conviction, where even the BBC runs articles about people, innocent people, pleading guilty to a crime they didn't do. Yeah, no, when you look at Japan's culture in particular, the idea, like, is there rehabilitation going on here? Probably not. Probably not. It makes sense that he comes in from a position of, they have to tell themselves that there is a possibility for rehabilitation here. And the fact that they have to bringing up that a teenager is not a lost cause, of all the people, like, it's just like the way that the lines come together just really make the police look really draconic here, which makes sense with the rest of the Hero Academia world. Like, Tsukachi's a real hard ass in Vigilantes, and like Team Up Missions had a very ugly moment. So you're seeing a lot of like the most ugly parts of Hero Academia society here. It's like when you have the police doing things like this, it's like, yeah, no wonder you end up with so many villains. Like the big thing here is that really Tsukachi should not be having such a big moment talking about like finding the good inside of villains and whatnot. All right, I gotta move because like I'm taking too much time, but like it's an interesting chapter in almost all regards. Okay. I just can't let this go. When Nabrava says she's gonna write a brand new program so that the surviving section can keep the joint in the air, I just want to let you know, like, if she can do that within an hour, like even an hour, if she does that within an hour, Buddy Guy needs to get on his knees and kiss her feet, man. Like, if a programmer can make a whole new program under duress like she is and make it work without many bugs, bruh, wow, that's a really talented young lady. Like, no. I wonder where the police force's own hacking team is. Oh, I know where they are. They were failing at getting La Brava from posting stuff on YouTube, so they got fired. Okay, page 4 isn't actually very important. It's just like a re-establishment page of Izuku and Shigaraki. Like, doesn't really matter here. Izuku's still in pain. Shigaraki's like just hugging himself because he got to come back out. We go into page 5 and the goodness continues. We're told that they lost control and they're preparing for a crash landing. We see people coming out. We see that Kaminari notices that there are a bunch of twices. He calls out for Monoma and Aizawa, and we have the guys trying to decide whether or not they're going to shoot some people, right? Now, here's the problem. Have you guys ever seen the zero-G airplanes? Have you ever seen like the videos of turbulence, like what happens when you have a sudden drop, and how everything flies up? If UA is truly in free fall, like there are some spots where it looks good, but like these guys should not be able to move so comfortably. With UA in free fall, everyone should be pretty close to floating. Like, if you're not careful, you could just leave a wire the way that the twices are coming down, because if the whole thing's on free fall, like the physics here doesn't really work out to have, you know, gravity enforced movement. There's a few moments where, like, if you look at the twices, they're doing some cute things, like this little like chain here, and you can see one over here, and he's like holding on to it. But like the guys are running here. If they're all in free fall, they should not be able to do this as easily as they are. I want to think that there's some thrust still happening, but everyone's saying that it's free fall. And when you say free fall, that means there's no force counteracting gravity. So holy gosh, you gotta be very careful. Like if you do this on a scientific paper, if you say free fall, that has a lot of meaning behind it, a lot more than you might expect in like casual discussion. But like, mind you, this chapter is all based on like there's a lot more going on here than just what the casual interpretation might say. Okay, so we go into the next section here, page 6 to 7. We have Skeptic still freaking out. We find out that he was caught by Hound Dog, Miss Joke, Shindo. Apparently Shindo's girlfriend is here too. Anyway, it is really interesting how that worked out. Like, what I'm going to assume is happening is that these guys were at a separate battlefield, and then they just happened to be close enough that they all ran over there when La Brava gave him the information. And then we have, like, Hound Dog being there and him, like, making the little connection about, oh, I was involved with these guys. Fate works in funny ways. I think that's an interesting little thing, just to give Hound Dog something to do. I'm just really happy they found him. Good on them. I hope they kick themselves for not finding the man cave earlier. Anyway, these are the pages where Gento comes back. Now, look, I love Gento. He's one of my favorites. I think he means a lot to Izuku, and you see it here. Gento's one of my favorites. I love him. I'm glad he's back. I could gush to you about it, but like right now we're talking about how bad the chapter is, so I can't, like, just know I love Gentle with the bottom of my heart. I'm actually really happy for what happens here, and I think they improved a lot of the dialogue for the Gentle bits. Okay, so we go into the page 8 and 9, and we see what's going on here. We have just a quick flashback. It doesn't matter what we're seeing here, because a lot of these villains don't really matter. And we have Gentle coming out, and him trying to stop people, because at the end of the day, Gentle's a nice guy. He just wanted to try and be something. So we ultimately see Gentle's final stand here when he thinks about Izuku, and he's able to stand up to them. Ultimately, I think the whole sequence is really cool. I like that for Gentle. He deserves to have some kind of credit to what's going on here. I'm just gonna give some props. Awesome panel, love that panel. Page 10 and 11 is pretty much dedicated to explaining what's going on with Gentle. So first, I just want to say I love this imagery. I love how it works. I love the way that Gentle stopped all these people. It is awesome. The thing is, Gentle had really high quirk mastery. And you're really seeing it here. One thing you have to remember is that Gentle doesn't actually like violence. So him being able to do all this without the lover boost, awesome. But it really just goes to show, restraining villains isn't that hard. Because the heroes are doing this like it's nothing. It really only matters if you're a high quality villain. And you gotta remember, this isn't Tartarus. Gentle wasn't in Tartarus. These are super petty offenders. These guys are probably not very smart either, given what they were saying, because they were super villainous TM. But yeah, no, I like this. It makes sense to me that Gentle could do this because Gentle has higher quirk mastery than average. And given how everyone just gets like this isn't a war, it's pretty much just a bunch of mooks and then a handful of really big names that are causing the problems. So I want to go to this one. This is just so much better than the translation and the summary. I like absence makes the heart grow that much fonder, pretty much saying that these two love each other more, which is to say that whatever Gentle's doing in the next page is because of a massive love boost from the situation of them being further away. They come to appreciate each other more. I really like that the translator specifically went for a phrase that makes sense in English, because this was pretty much what they were trying to say when, because they were away from each other for so long, their love increased. People understand the metaphor a little bit better, so really appreciated that one. Now, one of Labrava's emotional realizations here is it's very subtle, because the author has to be very careful, and he has to kind of try and make this seem better, because Labrava was already very much in love with Gentle. So you have her going from, I thought that only by being together would I be happy. But then it's no. Even being apart from you, knowing that you're happy makes me super happy too. So it's a small distinction, but the author had to play with it to make something, to make it seem like there was development. Okay, so this is page 12 to 13. This is the pages where Gentle goes for it. I gotta say, Izuku realizing that Gentle was the one helping him out, and having the juxtaposition between Izuku and Gentle's pages and both of them kind of crying. It's come on, this is awesome. I love this. This is awesome. I have always wanted this kind of, yes, this is awesome. This is the kind of stuff I would like to do, right? In terms of my own stories. This is the kind of moments I would love to set up. So I'm in for it. I like these kind of moments. I like the whole setup for it, but we have to talk about the powers. I am still very sketched out by Yue being caught in a trampoline, because things that deform a trampoline usually go up. Now, there was a commenter that I had a lot of fights with over this. It was Jason Thomas. Specifically about, does it make sense that Gentle can actually hold up Yue? In my arguments, I thought the Yue still had thrusters. But everyone in this chapter seems very intent on saying that we're in freefall. So that means there's no thrusters. So that means that Buddy Guy Gentle is holding up Yue, and the last time we saw this Gently Super Lover, it was pretty much dancing with 20% Izuku. So where do we even say here? Is he 50% All Might? What's Gentle rocking right now? One thing that should be considered too is that there is a tensile strength to, is that the right term? Yeah. The elastic trampoline itself should be providing resistance to Yue. We actually don't know any real good metrics for how strong his trampoline itself is, but the trampoline's tension plus Gentle holding it up as well, maybe it inches everything together, but this is a really mighty feat of super strength. The thing is that with the love factor, with him talking about the love and it increasing, we now have a reason to say that, hey, yeah, Gentle is super powered up. We don't know how much he's powered up, but he's super powered up. I personally would love to see Gentle punch Shigaraki, because I want to see how much strength he's rocking. I don't think he's 100% All Might, but I would love to see him punch Shigaraki. He's going to do more than Meteor did, for sure. That said, I do feel like Gentle's trampolines are more durable than he is. So that might be something there. But yeah, no, this is a definite sketchy kind of feat. Now, if Yue is still like losing altitude, even though Gentle's holding it up, I think that would be fair. One thing I want to point you to here, though, is if you look at his arms are like flexing so hard that it's destroyed his sleeves. So, you know, like in Hero Academia, the things that destroy sleeves are usually 100% punches. So make of that what you will. Okay, so here we have a wonderful page of Shigaraki, right? He gets his hand blasted off by Nagant. I'm not gonna like question the physics of this. I don't care. We've already questioned so much. But before that, we had Banjo saying we're not in free fall anymore. The balance is broken. He's starting up again. So pretty much he's gonna touch the ground. We have Nagant's bullet coming through. Look, man. All right. Okay, where do I even begin? First, let's talk about All Might. No matter how far they've fallen, each villain is still a human being. To borrow a phrase from a friend, we'll find their starting point, their origin, deep within their hearts. I love that they acknowledge that the villains are humans too. I want them to acknowledge that with Dobby twice, Shigaraki, and All For One. Especially All Might. I want All Might to acknowledge that All For One is also a human. Because some dehumanization is going to happen. I want them to also acknowledge that Muscular is a human. It's really interesting because like ultimately the villains that they're picking aren't really hardcore villains. Like Nagant was working for a guy that pretty much had her doing Black Ops. Aoyama was coerced by a Demon King. I think his parents were more at fault. Like they have a really small, like they picked the ones whose origin isn't deeply buried below mountains and miles of sludge, right? They picked the ones whose origins is either like right at the surface or like, hey, it's kind of right here. I was kind of thinking about going the other way, but hey, it's right here. So, you know, ultimately the Sukachi line is interesting because it's pretty much just a giant framework for introducing these guys back into the stories and like, you know, the story of how we all became heroes part 4, you know. It's nice. It's a guiding framework for the chapter, but some parts here just looks really ugly. This whole thing, the way that you're cherry picking, it's easy to say that you can find the origin in a villain that is more or less repentant. Like, look what Gentle did. Nagant got screwed over by the system as much as she freaked out and shot the one guy who was like actually like pretty legit corrupt. And then she makes her mistake by going down All For One's path because like I guess like years of being in Tartarus kind of do that to you. You know, it's very easy to say this kind of stuff. The ones that it matters for is Shigaraki. I want to see if Sukachi's going to say, like, let's kill Shigaraki. Because then, like, what happened to finding the origin, right? It's really easy to say these kind of things when you have people who are agreeable with you. And the thing is with Horikoshi is that you actually could see that level of hypocrisy from Sukachi because Horikoshi actually has a pretty good handle of the ugliest parts of human beings. So I'm actually very excited for that because I would love to point out more character flaws and not, like, actual flaws. But yeah, no, man. Good stuff. Now, this is a projectile of Nagant's hair. And it's able to, like, rip off Shigaraki's arm. This is what Shigaraki looked like post getting blasted by a railgun or a laser beam. I want to believe that a plasma cannon is stronger than a hair bullet. You know? For Sun Eater's sake, I'm going to say for Sun Eater's sake that he really did just miss when he shot at Shigaraki. You know, let's just leave it there because like pretty much what he said last time was, do you really think an attack of that level could stop All Might? And so when it comes back to this bullet, I really don't think that a plasma cannon loses to a bullet. You know, so Shigaraki dodged Sun Eater last time. That's how we're gonna do this for Sun Eater's sake. Like, he just managed to dodge him. Anyway, we have Nagant shooting at Shigaraki. I think that's cool. Now, the thing here is that we have the story of how we all became heroes part 4. I'm expecting part 5 to include Death Arms and Yoroi. Pretty much how we became heroes is pretty much the return of the ones that tried to retire. The reason that they are still important is because when we saw Skeptic, we had this thing here where he was sending this thing in, and it seemed like it was going to the UA system. We can say it was going to the UA system because he was like looking at this screen here. So we still have the plot point of people inside of UA. And this chapter confirmed that this was still at play because it had Skeptic saying something like, I won't let go of the evacuation system. So that means he's using the evacuation system. So overall, when I'm looking at this, it's like, okay, so we're gonna get part 5, how we all became heroes of the retired heroes in the shelter helping out. After seeing this chapter, you know, I'm excited to see Snipes shoot someone because I'm pretty sure he's gonna show up again. And then I think we're gonna get how we became heroes part 6, where it's pretty much how Toga became a hero when she tries to save Shigaraki. That's pretty much what I expect to happen in the future of Hero Academia. Anyway, my camera's dying, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I have like 47 minutes recorded, but I hope I'll be able to like cut that down. I hope you guys enjoyed some programming talk, because I sure did. But maybe you didn't, but I sure hope you did. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and till next time. Hope you have an absolutely great day. And if I forgot any details, sorry. I'm trying to like go through the chapter very quickly. This was a really fun chapter, though. Don't really get to talk about like technical failures pretty often. Okay, this time for real. See you guys.